Okay, I got 6 o'clock. Let's go ahead and call those board order. Please stand for the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank everyone for their attendance. 2 minutes can reflect the role of the various trustees and staff. Let's move on to item 3. Entertain a motion for the approval of the 12-5 village board in the file, the 10-11 public safety committee, the 10-19 park and rec board, 11-9 architectural review board, 11-16 board of public works, 11-21 finance committee meeting minutes as presented.
I'll move to approve.
Second. Motion is second. As always, comments, questions, clarifications on the minutes. Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That motion passes. Therefore, anybody in the audience wishing to be heard on a non-agenda item. Move on to item 5. Any materials have been distributed in the normal fashion. Let's move on to item 6. Resolutions, ordinance, action items. Item 8. For the finance committee, we have 2 items. Item 1 is a motion in the form of a resolution to approve cities and villages mutual insurance company CIMIC of Wauwatosa as the village's provider of liability insurance. Paul, you might give us a quick overview?
Sure. Went out and in essence, did an RFP for services for liability insurance. This hasn't been done in about 10 years. Came back, staff is recommending CIVMIC. They made us a presentation at the last finance meeting, which I think all the trustees were in attendance. Then after that, we met with CIVMIC. One of the requirements, which wasn't brought up at finance committee meeting, is the resolution needs to be adopted by the trustees to officially be part of the program, and also it's required to hand out, which is the attachment to IFC, the member responsibilities and obligations, the CIVMIC bylaws, the articles of amendment, and as requested, also information on the additional pollution coverage.
Thank you. Anything you wish to add to the discussion, representatives of CIVMIC? Okay, we'll just take questions. I know pretty much everybody on the board was at the presentation, but we will open it up for comments, questions, or any items to be directed either to staff or to the vendor. Yep.
Jesse, could either you or a member of the new team just explain a little bit about that extra coverage and the amount that it costs? It looks like it's about $3,300, but then there's this $50,000 deductible, which seems extreme.
Yes, I would defer to the CIVMIC team to review the details of that. The high level explanation is in the IFC, but I would ask a CIVMIC representative to speak to that pollution coverage item.
Good evening. I can handle that. Appreciate the opportunity to speak and appear before the village board again this evening. The question related to the additional pollution coverage is an optional coverage. It is a group purchase coverage that we purchased through our broker, Arthur J. Gallagher. So the deductible level would apply to any member municipality that would be joining that program. So the $50,000 deductible is what Gallagher goes to market with to the actual carrier. So we have very little control on the CIVMIC side for that. That is something that's marketed by our broker. So although a rather high deductible for that specific expanded coverage, it is an optional coverage only.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that's acceptable.
Okay, so this is just information for our information. It's not an obligation, or we haven't made a decision, or did we decide that it's too much money and we are not going to?
The question was raised at the finance committee to get information about that additional rider onto the standard coverage that we would have. That's what we're presenting. So if the village board would like to add that as part of, it would have to be included in the motion this evening.
We haven't, we have no open, what do they call it? participants, what do they call for the pollution for,
Responsible.
when you have things that are participating,
Responsible party.
yeah, PRP. We don't have any open cases, do we? On the village's perspective, other than obviously Limekiln that we're monitoring.
It's the only one I can think of.
So we don't really have anything new.
Well, there's
from,
nothing under, we do have a claim with EMC on a backup with a lateral that was connected to 4 homes was capped. With the advice of the utility crew or utility staff. So we're looking into that right now. They've had an investigator come out and review it. But that would be under EMC that falls under general liability, so it's sewer at this point. Because it is something that.
So we are basically covered for that.
Correct.
Correct. Pollution, no, other than the Limekiln Park.
The other site is not directly related to.
Oh,
Limekiln,
West
but
Plume.
the First Avenue site, which is currently Waukesha Metals.
The West Side.
The West
would
Plume.
be, another site, but
Mm.
all kind, somewhat related to one.
I guess my question then is there's nothing unknown out there. Obviously, you don't know what you don't know, but to the best of our knowledge, everything inside the village limits we've pretty much identified. We know where the plumes are right there. Okay, all right.
That's up there, that we covered is underneath that water's policy under flooded.
The issue Director Studahar spoke to is to a historical situation where 4 homes were connected to, I guess, one service line, if you will. And then the construction drawings we had on hand showed that construction, that service line not being connected anymore. So new connections were run. Turns out it was in fact. So there is a homeowner's insurance aspect of it, but then also it's being investigated as to whether the village would be on the hook for that line being disconnected.
Well, this is off the subject, but there's a little bit more history to that whole situation that I'd love to share with you.
Perfect. I'd appreciate that.
But regardless, I don't think that would be covered under pollution.
No,
No.
nope.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right, comments, questions? All right, this is in the form of a resolution, takes an offer, motion, and a second.
I'll offer.
Second,
Okay, we have an offer, motion, and a second, final comments, questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That resolution passes. Thank you, and welcome to the village.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Move on item 2. Item 2 is a motion to approve the employee handbook as presented. A lot of work has gone into it. It was reviewed at finance. Some questions, comments that did come up. Looks like we have good representation tonight, but Jesse, this is one of your goals for the year, so you want to go over it?
Sure. In the end, as time permitted, we did go through chapter by chapter, the employee handbook. That said, we've reached the culmination point here of creating a handbook that adds updated legal guidance, adds updated court case information, clarifies many points throughout the book, and also just consolidates sections that were previously standalone items that didn't need to be. They could be incorporated into. So we've actually shortened down the handbook. We have added as a part of the handbook, the recently adopted compensation system. That way that is fully aware out there and able to be referenced by all employees. It is not a nebulous topic out on a shelf, in a separate manual. And that being said, we are in a place here this evening to adopt the employee handbook, which would be rolled out in January. The handbook as coming out of Finance Committee with the changes highlighted, and then a summary sheet was attached to the IFC.
Okay, I'll open up to the village board for the wishes, comments, questions. Yes, Amy.
So Jesse, the last time we revised this was 2012,
Yes.
and what is the plan going forward so that there's not such a huge gap again?
We want to look at it every 18 months is what we initially discussed. And actually, well, they're offline now. A very nice resource that CIVMIC offers is exactly that, a policy review that is a free service to us. So it'll be much easier for us to do this regularly because we have built-in service to help us out with that. That's part of our insurance program. So yeah, that is our plan because this was a bear to redo the entire manual and take a look at it as a whole. So I want to be able to go through this. Now, granted, updates will pop up from time to time as laws change and whatnot. Those will be addressed, but otherwise, an ongoing review of the manual is planned.
I'll entertain a
Okay,
motion.
I'm sorry.
Do we want to at least get it on the board, on the table, and then we can go through the discussion?
Motion to approve. Second.
Okay, we have a motion second. Great, now let's open it up.
Okay, thank you. Jesse, on page 8, exempt employee, are all department heads exempt?
What page, please?
8.
Oops. Yes, basically, salaried employees is kind of the easy way to define that.
Okay.
Yep.
And I think, last time I spoke at finance, that I'm not in agreement with portion that says if you're on PTO
Hmm.
and you get called in to work, you would get time and a half.
Right.
And I personally don't agree with that, as other larger institutions do not practice that. If you work physically
Mhm.
and you come in and do extra time, then you would get time and a half. So I am not in agreement with that. But I wanted to also confirm that on Sundays, there is, and I think I don't know what page it is. The utilities on call, and on Sundays, do people get paid double time? Is that, I thought I saw that somewhere in here.
No, we get 5 hours of time and a half. They visit all of the equipment. And they get an hour of pager pay to basically to be on call for any calls that.
Jesse, do you, I know it's in here somewhere. We talked about time and a half on getting called in, but there was something in this book about except on a Sunday when it's double time.
Yes, holidays are double time.
Holidays.
No, and I'm sorry, I brought my summary. I did not bring
Yeah.
the manual. My apologies.
I should have bent it over. Hold on. See if I can find it here.
As you're looking for that, to provide the context of the conversation with regards to overtime. The longstanding historical practice in the village dating back to what I found in a 2007 labor contract with the Ask Me AFL-CIO dating back to 2007, and I'm assuming before this. For the purpose of computing overtime pay, all hours paid shall be considered hours work. Or in other words, if you took a day off during the week, or if you called in sick during the week, or there was a holiday during the week, but you were in turn called in on a Saturday to plow snow or fix a water main or what have you, those hours during the work week, during the Monday through Friday week, all counted towards that 40-hour mark, and thus overtime was calculated. When I initially brought forward the personnel manual, I was under the mistaken interpretation that there needs to be a strict interpretation of the way the law is written, being hours worked over 40. What I had clarified for me by legal counsel and other sources is that hours worked is not defined in either state or federal law. Therefore, by policy, an employer may calculate overtime based upon hours paid, which has been our practice for quite some time. So therefore, that was the follow-up discussion with Finance Committee to clarify that and make sure it was understood that hours worked was still the terminology. However, PTO, holidays, still during a work week still counted towards that 40 hours worked. So just kind of adding some clarification there.
Right, which is what I said.
Yep,
That-
yep.
That PTO and anything above that.
Right.
Will be granted, and the actual working time will be time and a half. If somebody gets called in.
Correct. Yep.
And so that I.
Yep.
I don't agree with, so I didn't see anything on in this handbook that talks about like on-call or, paid on call. Make sure you, but that says utility operators, is there paid for DPW?
DPW is not considered on call.
Oh.
Only operators are, because DPW will be called back to work as needed. There is scheduled on-call periods for utility operators because they have to monitor the plant and the system on a regular basis throughout that weekend. So they take turns being on call because they are obligated to come into the plant and respond to calls. Whereas public works employees are only called back to work as needed if it snows or ice or weather emergency, what have you. So public works employees are not considered on call.
The superintendent basically does that on-call duty.
I'm
at
sorry?
all times. The superintendent at Public Works does basically the on-call, where he is always on call, no matter what's going on for police or emergency situations. Other staff are not assigned to that.
Does he get paid for being on call?
He doesn't, he's a salary.
Oh, okay. But obviously he's not gonna, he can't snowplow 4 different rigs or something.
Correct. So then it's a call back into work if he makes that call and needs to call people back.
And we're different. We visit each piece of equipment every single day. Even the holidays.
And
So
there's
they spend
emergency-
4 or 5 hours just doing rounds each.
And there's emergencies that happen in
Correct.
the water department, but I feel like there could also be emergencies with the DPW. So
Absolutely.
that's a concern that I have. That's it for now.
Okay. The, that policy that is in question, that was something that you had. I know you had talked about comparable communities.
Yes, yeah. Just to check to see what our neighbors were doing. And I want to thank Director Thomas for doing quite a bit of this legwork for me in reaching out to her peers from Public Works. But we have Port Washington, Cedarburg, Whitefish Bay, Mequon, Ozaukee County, Shorewood, Germantown, and Wauwatosa directly confirmed with us that they calculate overtime the same way we do, as far as if there's a holiday during the week or a PTO day during the week and they're called in over the weekend, they are eligible for overtime. And the operations manager for Germantown's Public Works Department actually went on to say that when Act 10 was passed, Germantown did go to that literal interpretation of overtime calculation of counting only 40 hours in the building as being physically worked and computing overtime. About 4 years ago, they actually switched back. They were experiencing loss of staff and significant morale concerns. So therefore, they actually switched back to what is in what our existing practices and what is set forth in the employee handbook here this evening as well. So just some points of context there from other communities.
All right, I know that, in finance, just the meeting prior to previous to this, we had talked about maintaining competitiveness. And I think even when we looked at earlier this year, how we managed the compensation through the pay grades, I think it's again an effort to remain competitive with our neighboring communities. So we retain, it's always cheaper to retain than it is to recruit. So, other questions, comments? Motion and a second, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
Sure, when nay, that motion passes. Let's move on to the report. If anybody is here on any other items, you're welcome to stay. If you're here just for this, I want you heard. If you want to have a happy holiday and move on. All right, let's move forward to report of Public Works discussion. We have 3 items. Item 1 is the motion to recommend the village board approve increasing yard active card fees effective January 1st, 2023. Those rates and fees are posted.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second. Motion and a second. Comments, questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Item 2 is a motion to recommend village board approve limiting free battery collection from Village of Grafton residents at the municipal services facility to rechargeable. Amber, you want to go through these? I understand what a NICAD is, but I know what an ion battery is.
Great, I may not be able to explain to you what they all are either, but this is based on DNR recommendations that your normal standard batteries can now be thrown in the trash. They're not posing a huge environmental hazard. And all of those that are recommended for recycling, we would still accept.
Is there anything that is obvious to the people that is not acceptable?
My notes with me, I mean, there are types of batteries that are extremely hard to recycle that could pose a hazard to our ability to take them.
Maybe put it in standard English and throw something out on the website.
We will, it is on our website, so we will update it to be clear
Like
with
maybe
what our
examples
policy
of
is.
what, okay. all right.
Pictures would be good, yes.
So we're gonna go on the water bills.
We did talk about doing that, yes, trying to get something out in the new year.
Entertain a motion.
I'll motion. I'll second.
Motion is second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Item 3 is a motion to recommend the village board approve change order number 5R for the Headworks project and final payment to C.D. Smith in the amount of $318,331.02.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Motion is second. Amber, any final comments, questions, or any from water and wastewater?
It just closes out the project, the final payment.
Okay,
So soon.
Huh?
So soon.
all right, motion. So, do we-
Yep, motion and second. We have trustee Krieger as the motion, trustee Harbeck as a second.
Okay, all in favor? That motion passes. Still, congratulations. Another, the big, long project. Move on, item C, for the Public Safety Committee, item 1 is a motion to recommend village board approve the acceptance of a $250 stipend from movement forward.
We did all three of those at once, so all for public works for applying towards.
We recommend approval. So you might take items 1, 2, 3 together?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion for items 1, 2, 3.
I'll make a motion.
Motion is second for items, move to accept the $250 stipend for moving forward, be approved. Motion to approve the acceptance of the donation of $78 to be applied toward the Grafton Canine Foundation be approved. Motion to recommend village board approve the acceptance of a donation of $30 to the Grafton Police Department be approved. Motion in a second, all in favor? Any opposed? That motion passes. Item 4 is a motion to recommend the village board approve the modifications to ordinance 6.08 regulation of dog, cat, and other animals be approved.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
And this was in response to a specific event. Minutes were pretty clear. Anybody wants any further discussion on this item? Chief, anything you want to add?
No, I just want to thank the citizen, Terry, who helped work with me on this ordinance update. That's government work right there, where we work with our citizens to get something accomplished. So I commend her for stepping up and helping out.
Okay, do we have the motion in a second?
Could I say also that, she was very patient. She had this very seriously injured dog. And I know Chief Capidaire worked on this a while, and it's turned into a very lengthy ordinance that covers most anything you could ever think of. So I just want to say I appreciate that, and the citizen is very, very appreciative.
Again, I was going pretty fast. Did we take the motion?
Yes, we have trustee Harbeck motion, trustee Luft is a second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. All right, move on item B, report of Park and Rec Board. Item 1 is a motion to accept the donation of 9 benches from Jacob Post to be located at Limestone Park be approved.
I'll move to approve.
Motion is second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 2 is a motion to approve the increases to the park rental shelter fees with updated changes to be approved.
Make a motion.
I'll second.
Motion is second, just high level overview on the justification.
You know, basically, I kind of went through the fees and I did comparables to our neighbors to see where we fall in with theirs. It had been basically, I believe, about 10 years since we had done anything with these fees. This keeps us very compatible, or excuse me, competitive with our neighbors, as well as the increase in revenues can help that money turn back into the park system to help with our annual and day-to-day maintenance. With the increase of those revenues, that's the approach I took when I was building the budget.
Same logic for aquatic fees.
Yes.
Questions for Park and Rec? Please.
So Chad, again, the same question, is it's gonna be on a schedule so that going forward, we don't have a gap of a decade before we.
Yes, I plan to review these on an annual basis myself as I'm preparing the budget to see if there's any things that we need to tweak, but definitely every. And I don't know, probably a 3-year rotation, we might be looking at small incremental bumps, not big ones like we did this year. Just to stay up to date with the cost of maintaining our park system.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chad. So item 2, we have a motion, second, further comments, questions? Hearing none, all in favor? Any opposed? That motion passes. Item 3 is a motion to approve the increases to the daily admission fees and membership fees for the Family Aquatic Center 2023. Be approved.
Second.
Motion is second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Item 4 is a motion to accept the donation from Grafton Little League in the amount of $4,750. Be approved.
Make the motion.
Second.
Seems like this was like a donation in context of maintenance.
Yes, we approved a maintenance project in October to rehab both our diamonds up there, and that was a donation in an agreement that was put together with Little League and the department.
Okay, motion is second. Comments, questions?
So we're approving the donation part, but there was actually an extension of the agreement, but that doesn't have to come.
Correct. There was an existing rental agreement with Grafton Little League for use of the Centennial Fields at certain times. That was simply extended. That was discussed at the Park and Rec Committee meeting, but generally speaking, rental agreements like that are handled at a staff level. So Yep.
Can I ask about that though? So isn't it a lengthy rental, like 5 years?
it is an extension of that rental agreement. It is a significant extension. That said, there was a level of comfort when we discussed it at a staff level because of the limited use at Centennial. Just to help, in essence, guarantee that we had that customer traffic there.
Okay, and you don't feel that possibly there might be somebody else out there that, the 5-year plan for rental may discourage somebody else from coming forward, or?
With the dwindling trends of leagues coming and going, or primarily going, we felt comfortable with it. Again, that was a staff level discussion. I made the call that I felt it was a good practice to extend that lease, so we would have that customer base there, if you will.
Did the initial lease come to the village board?
No,
No, it's just pulled as a general permit, like anyone can call and register to reserve the ball diamonds. Little League did that last year through our permit and our fee process for renting a diamond out.
Okay.
So
for
this
an
basically-
extended period of time.
Right, so they basically rent it out each day and we put it out on the calendar. This basically honors that, so they'll be paying still additional fees this year on top of this donation. They're basically getting both diamonds on Tuesday and Wednesday nights for the price of one.
Okay, does this set a precedent, do you think, though, Jesse, if somebody comes along and says, I wanna rent, the facility we have down on Lime Kiln, I wanna rent it for every year for the next 5 years for Christmas. Is this something that you could get into trouble with?
I don't believe so. We can take a look at every situation on a case by case basis, and I don't believe this does set a precedent.
Other questions? Motion is second, all in favor?
I,
Any opposed? Move on item 5, motion to accept the donation from Grafton Softball Association in the amount of $3,401. Be approved.
I'll make that one.
I'll second.
Motion is second, comments on that? Hearing none, all in favor?
I,
Any opposed? That motion passes. Move on item 7, department and officers reports. Jesse, make it started.
Sure, 2 quick things for the village board this evening. I have finally taken delivery of laptops for the paperless packet. The setup is ongoing, and I look to have January 16th as our first meeting, maiden voyage of a fully paperless packet. Again, paper will be available upon request, but the laptops will be set, ready to go. With instructions and whatnot for the board to be able to utilize for paperless packets. Then we did go live with an economic development website. This is a brand new feature on the village's webpage. This is marketing information for village-wide to help give a concise landing spot for the development community to access very useful village-related information, economic-related information, points of contact being village, county, chamber of commerce, and is I believe, an excellent marketing tool for the village, and I'm really happy to see that come to fruition. I want to say a special thank you to Community Development Director Jessica Wolf for her assistance with that project, as we work through to determine what makes the most sense to put out there with regards to providing a landing spot for the development community that frankly doesn't waste people's time, but is attractive to draw their interest, take a look, find the information they need, and then reach out to us to get that economic development process going. So I'm really proud of that project coming to fruition and going live. So those are two updates I have this evening. Otherwise, thank you very much and Merry Christmas, everybody.
Right, that's just a question on that.
Yes, sir.
I ran across, I'm not a developer, but maybe developers do have an interest in knowing where water and or sewer infrastructure is located. And we have a link on our website, which is inactive, doesn't work.
Okay.
That's something that we can make active and useful.
I think that
Or take
is.
it off altogether, so
You
that
need to
people,
double check for security. Homeland security, but I think some of that's on those from the GIS.
Yeah, we can look into that and see what, if any, limitations we have or how to best get that information to developers' hands. But that is absolutely something we can look to address. Yep.
It used to be, I think there was a password for that.
Okay.
Okay, any other comments, questions for Jesse?
I just a couple. And this is actually for Chad. I saw something in the, I think in the notes that maybe are not, have not been authorized yet. With the Carico company for pool chemicals. And you were able to get a deal for a couple years.
Yes, we entered into a contract here, I think in the last month, Jesse has signed off on it, to basically get the same chemical cost for the next 2 years to maintain the pool. That'll be chlorine and acid.
Okay, and that's all it's for, chemicals?
What'd you say?
Is that all it's for, chemicals?
No, there's some additional training in that they'll offer up, and it's also another set of eyes that can come in and look at all our mechanicals as they relate.
So they'll be teaching some people too?
Yes, there will be a training that they'll refresh a couple of the DPW workers, as well as our management team, our pool manager and the assistant managers will also get some training with that system as well, to help out on the weekends.
Okay, excellent. And then my only other question was, Jesse, I'm concerned, the reason I asked earlier in the personnel handbook about the on-call for the DPW people is because I didn't realize that they are not really, that the people who snowplow are not really on call. That they
Correct.
don't get on-call pay,
Correct.
and they never have, I guess.
No, they have not.
So I don't know how that relates to any labor standard, but I guess I'm concerned because I'm hearing that everybody now is technically on call for possible snow plowing from now until April. And they have to kind of be at the beck and call or be ready in case they get a call saying you need to do snow plow. So they're all being told that they have to stick close to the community. They can't really go anywhere unless they have a vacation. And so I think we need to think about giving these people some on-call pay. I don't know if we can do it on a rotating basis. I'm not sure what, but to have people waiting at home to get a call but not being reimbursed, I've never heard of something like that. Could you give us an update next time?
I can absolutely provide an update.
Well, what is the policy now?
That they are not considered on call. They are free to go about their business. And if Jake gets the call that plowing activities are required, he starts going down the phone tree. There are plowing activities where we call in a couple. There are plowing activities where we call in the full crew. He will go down that phone tree, and folks that can respond do. However, it is an expectation under their job duties that is explained to them during the interview process, the orientation process, as well as training in the operations of the department, that is part of their job duties. So that is the current practice right now. So Jake is the individual that receives the calls, whereas when a utility employee or utility operator is on call, they take the call. And they physically visit the plant because they are scheduled to do so. Now, if the snowstorm misses us and nobody gets called, that's part of it. It's just a part of the expected job duties of a public works crew person. And that is the way it's been handled in all of the communities I've been in.
Right, I just would,
Yep.
maybe we can give more.
Absolutely.
Complete information.
Can do.
Because it raises me, especially talking about the personnel handbook, that we are asking people to be at the beck and call and to be ready. And I don't know if everybody in DPW has a CDL license, because that's what it takes to drive a snowplow. So maybe we could get some updates on that, because if that's the case and people are being told you can't go anywhere, that's not acceptable to me, even though I have no say about it place.
All right, so we'll do some research on that one.
Can do.
Thank you.
Let's move on to item 8, licenses. We have one individual and their place of employment. That's a motion for approval. Make the motion approved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anything opposed? That motion passes. Item 9, report of bills. Entertained motion for approval of bills expenditures, $585,292.55.
I'll make the motion.
Motion is second. I saw the back and forth. Any final questions on bills?
Just one. Let's go back to our sewer on 11th Avenue. $27,810 to Harbor City Plumbing. I understand there was the situation that this addresses, I assume, but 27,000, and that is a utility bill or expense or obligation?
Correct. It
What
was,
exactly was done for that?
and Brandon can chime in better, but, that was the work that was done in the basement of those two homes on 11th Avenue in order to replumb those homes for the connection of the lateral to 11th.
So that's on private property. We were replumbing on private property.
The cause of it was,
I know the cause, the cause was this goes back in history, but the original cause was made at the call of one of the homeowners. We had the stops there, we said the stops were available for hookup and connection. We thought they would do it, and they turned it down.
Well, when we got the call, because Harbor City or Mile Rock was doing work on 12th Avenue for the two homes on 12th Avenue, we got the call to find out that they came upon piping that went toward 11th Avenue. So we pulled our record drawing, and it indicated that the sewer on the 11th, those two homes came from 11th. So we did not know that they connected back to 11th from 12th. So we told Mile Rock they could basically plug that connection. Because we didn't know anything besides what was in our record drawing. And our record drawing showed that at the time in 2007, it was connected on 11th. So we didn't have any other background.
You could have checked.
Well, no, so if you look back at all our as-bills. There was, it claimed on the as-bill that the laterals were ran for both houses. And it said nothing more. In 2007, there should have been something on our as-bill and the maps that we go on. That's all we have. If there's an 8-inch sanitary mainline sewer running through private property. That's feeding those houses, there should have been a manhole in the road. Because how can we jet and maintain that lateral that was actually ours? We didn't even know it was there. We can't see it ground. I mean, if it's not on the maps, we have no clue. So when I made the decision and told them to cut and half that pipe, It was old, there was barely any flow. It took 3 months for those houses to back up. And at that time, we figured it out. The reason the bill was so much is because the laterals for those two homes ran out the back side. The grades that were laid for the sanitary sewer laterals in the stubs in 2007 weren't even physically possible to connect to their existing sanitary
So
sewer.
we did
house.
the full connection. We put the lateral in for that amount as well. Yep.
That's the insurance.
Okay, other questions on the bills? Okay, motion is second, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 10, entertain motion to convene a closed session pursuant to Wisconsin statutes 1985 for real estate and federal bargaining matters, and of meeting 7 North Green Bay Road and police union contract negotiation. I'll make that motion. Second. Motion is second, how long do you anticipate?
I would like to take a good 20 minutes, 25 minutes, just to make sure we talk through the items at hand. Attorney, our labor counsel, Joel Azier, is with us via Zoom to speak to the collective bargaining agreement that we have reached.
So there is potential action afterwards.
Yes.
Roll call motion. Roll call. Aye. Aye.
Aye.
We are in closed session for approximately 20-25 minutes.